Hello, my name is Opal Singleton. I am the president and CEO of Million Kids. And we're an organization that combats trafficking and social media exploitation, child pornography, money laundering, things like that. And I have been making presentations on these subjects for many years. Well, this weekend we're getting ready to do a Train the Trainer event. It's actually gotten way out of hand. We thought maybe 40, 50 people in an intimate setting, and we're over 300. So I wanted to make a specialized presentation, something that you can get your hands on, download, keep at any time, about some of the considerations when making presentations about exploitation. Now, certainly most of us have been making some sort of presentation many times in our lives if you're a professional person. But dealing with exploitation, especially child exploitation, is a little bit more challenging and difficult. So I wanted to kind of give you some nuances about it. I hope that you will follow me and kids if you don't already. All of those are our social media. So the name of the game, if you're going to become a presenter on these subjects, is that you have to make yourself an expert. And that means really dedicating your time and your energy into understanding what this is all about. And that's not an easy thing to do. It is very time consuming, and it also kind of tears at the soul over time. So if you want to get in this business of making presentations, whether it's for your own private school or organization maybe, or maybe your corporation, one of the things you really have to do is stay current on all that's happening. The ideas of human trafficking, especially labor and also sex trafficking, all of those are changing subjects. And that's very true because of technology also. So you really have to keep yourself up to date. I'd highly recommend that you go to Facebook if you are on Facebook and join Million Kids Supporters. Just go in the search, put in Million Kids Supporters, ask to join. It is a private kind of a chat room so that you have to be admitted. But that is where I put often one a day of new cases that come out that I think are important for you to be able to stay current. Also, if you want to email me, I don't normally give this out, but I'm going to this time. This is my private email address, osingle405@aol.com. Okay, don't give me a bad time. I've been on AOL all my life, I think, but I can't give it up. And it's the one that I have the most. I have 7 email addresses, but if you want to communicate directly, it's osingle405@aol.com. Okay, also go on to millionkids.org and sign up for our insider alerts. Normally, this format is what I use for an insider alert, and this may become an insider alert, but we'll see. Anyway, please sign up for those. Okay, so in order for you to make a presentation on these subjects, you need to be an expert. People don't want to sign up and just talk about generalities. They want to come and get informed about specific information. That means that if you're going to be a speaker in this business, you need to be right on top of your game on whatever subjects that you choose. Now, in my case, I have a wide gamut because I've been doing this for eternity, it feels like. But I have many subjects that I research. But you may want to start with just one or two so it doesn't get overwhelming to you. But here are some suggestions of some of those areas that you could make presentations on that people would be interested in. Now, in my case, I'm literally a post-certified law enforcement instructor. I sat on the committee for the state of California that wrote the curriculum for human trafficking for the state of California for law enforcement. So my approach on that is based on case studies. Now, I'm not a victim services provider. I'm not an expert at victim service provision. I have the greatest respect for those people that do, and I serve as the training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. So I know most of the folks around Riverside, San Bernardino area. but I would never make a presentation about trauma-informed care. It's just not my area of expertise. So figure out what areas of expertise you want to be able to talk on, and then make yourself an expert on that, and I'll show you how you do that. So know your subjects well, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Research, research, research. So you can use me and Kids slides as a model. We have a YouTube channel where it's all out there. Hopefully the training we're going to do this Saturday is going to be recorded and filmed. And so you'll have access to the slides that we use. I would ask you not to duplicate them and don't copy them exactly, but use them as a model. That's how I started. In fact, Dr. Andy Doan was very generous with his slides way back in 2011, 2012. And it gave me an idea of how to go about creating slides that would tell a good communication. Now, one of the things that those of you who follow me know that I've already done is broken the golden rule, because this particular slideshow that I'm giving you has no photographs in it, no cute pictures, no videos and that kind of thing. Usually they do, but I wanted to keep this one just straightforward in it. But you are free to look at our slides and then get your own ideas and create your slides to tell the story the way you want to tell it. You decide which subjects you want to be an expert on, and you focus on those subjects. And trust me, it will be all consuming. And so get very good at one subject and then begin to add the other subjects. Build your own master library of slides that you can pick and choose when you're ready to present. We have several people at Me and Kids that present on behalf of Me and Kids, and they start with their own inventory of slides and build on that. And we share with each other a lot of our slides to just kind of, so we're right on top of our game and we're the very best. Okay, if you don't know how to research these subjects, one of the things, so you're going to follow Insider Alerts, you're going to sign up for Me and Kids supporters. And then if you're on Google, if you're not, you should be, go into Google and sign up for Google Alerts. Now, I want you to think this out long and hard before you do that, because your life will change forever once that happens. But Google Alerts will allow you to go on and say, okay, every day send me anything that's posted about this particular subject. Sex trafficking, labor trafficking, gang trafficking, Mexican cartel trafficking, drug trafficking, money laundering. All of those are in our Google Alerts that I sign up for. So what will happen is every morning I get up, I come to my desk, and I have 70 emails that I got to go through because I've been doing it forever. But what you will have is Google Alerts, and it will tell you, say, I would advise you not to start out with child pornography or CSAM. Those are the hardest ones I get. Every day I get maybe 15 to 20 cases that have been prosecuted or arrested across the nation. And so it takes a lot of your time to filter through all of those. Is this interesting? Is this worthwhile? Is there something to report here that can change somebody's life? And so you kind of throw out the ones you don't need and take the ones that are really, really interesting. So Google Alerts, put in your subjects, and every day you will get those. Also, what you'll see is that you want to choose carefully what you're going to use. Don't just load them up with everything that comes through, so that you need to be able to look at something and say, is this really of interest? What is it worth my time to share this with somebody? Does this prove a point? Also sign up for all kinds of important resources. Now, I will warn you that this can become like a major dragon in your life. You know, on average, I might get 50 to 70 emails an hour. And so I go delete, 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 delete. That's because I've been researching over 10 years. And so I'm on so many databases, everybody just feeds it to me. I don't recommend that for you because, you know, you have to get very choosy, okay? But let me give some examples. You can go into FBI and Homeland Security, and they will have different categories that you can sign up for press releases. And I get all kinds of Homeland Security press releases on, for instance, child pornography or on smuggling and Mexican cartels. So it'll give you a lot of information that you've got to sort through. So if you're a person that can't handle a large volume of incoming on your email, then don't do this. Okay. This is for somebody who wants to know everything about everybody, which happens to be me, by the way. So then also go into your local sheriff and your local police department. Sign up for Riverside County Sheriff and San Bernardino County Sheriff, Riverside PD, and San Bernardino PD. They all have press releases that they can bring to you. Sign up for expert publications. I'm on gobs of those. Scary. Anyway, InfoGuard, Europol, the Daily Mail, Epic Times, and like that. And then follow experts. Thorn is one of the very best. That's Ashton Kutcher, great people. Shared Hope, that's Linda Smith, wonderful, wonderful people. When they publish, I want to know. And somebody I didn't list on here that's not so great people, but is fascinating input is Pornhub. I'm on their mail list. Now, I don't get porn, okay? But you have to be careful because you'll get an artificial intelligence if you start receiving things with words that are using the word porn, hub, or child pornography, or CSAM. You have to be very, very careful. You need to make sure you have great software, great virus software, and be careful because you'll get an artificial intelligence profile for those subjects. Analyze each case for important talking points. This is the secret to everything I do right there. If I showed you no other slide, then take this slide and copy it, okay? Because I look at a case. Let's say I've got a case coming in and this person has been arrested for child pornography, or this girl was sexually violated in a sex trafficking case because she met on my LOL dating site. And so I'll look at that and I'll go, what did I learn about the victim in this case? In the case of she's on that dating site, she's willing to take chances. That will tell you something right about there. We have one case that I use sometimes where she actually raised $200. She met him on Instagram and she raised $200 and she paid for an Uber to go up to San Jose where she could meet up with this guy that she met online. He turned out to be a gang member and put her into trafficking. What did I learn about that victim? She was in the system for a long time. She's 15 years old. She's looking to be loved, and she saw him out, and she started looking online. So that tells me all about that grooming process, like getting the fantasy relationship, about her going up there. And because she sought him out, when he violated her, she felt like it was her own fault and she couldn't get back out. And so that's what I mean by what can we learn about the victim? What does this teach us about the perpetrator? In that same case I'm talking about, that perpetrator is screaming through jail bars. I'll be posting pictures on Backpage or whatever it was soon. He's still in jail and he is still running a sex trafficking ring. And on top of it, he isn't all that good looking, but he's still using technology. So that's what I mean. What can we learn about these perpetrators and that we can share with others? What does this case teach us about technology? I cannot stress that enough. I wrote an entire book on that. Societal Shift, A World Without Borders, A Home Without Walls. How is this technology used? How is it changing our society? How do we do crimes and crime solving? How do we, for instance, how are they moving out of the dark web into bulletproof hosting and these decentralized autonomous organizations known as DAOs? All of those things will have an impact as you read these cases, you pull this information together, and you make a presentation to share with others. And most important, what points in this case are really unique and different that we can use to educate law enforcement. Keep in mind, law enforcement's already trained on how to do investigations, how to, track down leads, how to serve warrants, how to understand gangs and like that. So what I'm looking for is what can I share with law enforcement that's unique and changing that they may not have picked up. So I look at cases from all over the United States, in some cases all over the world. So I can't stress this enough. Know your subject well. Research forever. If you see a case that illustrates an important fact, research it thoroughly. Don't just depend on that one article. And what you'll find, now it's getting harder and harder to do this, I have to warn you, because you have all these ads and they want you to sign up and pay and like that. But I want you to, for instance, research the name of the perpetrator that's in there. Anything that you can find about what's on there about that information. Then go to YouTube and see if there might be a video. Different news outlets will report situations differently. And so that's why you don't want to just stop with the one article you have. You take that article and say, okay, what else is out there about this case? Consider who authored it and who the publisher is. I can't stress that enough in today's political environment. You know, the media is extremely polarized out there. So when I see an article about something, for instance, a cartel or the border, I say to myself, who's the publisher? Who's the author? What is their goal in putting this out? Is this something that's really accurate, or is this somebody who's giving their opinion? It's not facts, it's their opinion. Nothing wrong with opinion if it's verified and substantiated to be something that is valid. Can you verify what you're reading? And that's very important on this. Consider, is it a factual piece or somebody's editorial? And take that into consideration. That doesn't mean that you can't use it, but you want to make certain that this isn't from some, right or left wing far out group that's trying to lead you down the path, giving you an opinion that may not be based on facts. What is their motivation in publishing it? That's an important question. Are they looking for money? Are they looking for acknowledgement, or maybe to become famous? So ask those questions. If it's a case where the perpetrator is charged, this is very, very important. I'm going to slow down a minute. I want to emphasize this with you. If you're looking at a case that you are going to use in your training, watch out and see, have they been sentenced or have they just been charged? Even if they're trying to plead guilty, initially they can change that opinion. So in a case where they have not been sentenced, always 100% of the time, to protect yourself, use the word allegedly. That way they cannot come back and sue you for libel. So choose your illustrations and videos carefully. Don't put nudity in there or anything to be considered pornographic. Now that's very, very difficult, okay? Especially if you're studying things like romance scams or, child pornography deals, things like that. Some of those photographs are very pornographic. So block them out, do whatever you can, but don't be putting pornographic images out there. Avoid foul language. Even if they're using it themselves, do not yourself go for that. That is, I just realized I've got a misspelling there. I love it. I'm going to confess right here. I could start over, but I won't. Not foul like the bird, foul language like F-O-U-L. I love it. Well, anyway, forgive me. Avoid anything that might be considered inappropriate by the public. And I mean that seriously. Be very careful about that. Make it age appropriate, especially if there are children in the audience. I usually suggest no 113 be in, but there are cases where the general audience say, I have an 11-year-old who's already done stuff online and I want them to hear it. And I will say, as long as they're with you and you decide that you want to do that, fine. But I don't ever want a child's first sexual experience to be one of exploitation that they heard from me. So that's very, very important that you understand that and that you make it age appropriate. I really have to do this on my radio show. I cannot use certain terms that are out there. So watch your language and choose your words carefully. Consider the life experience of these audiences. I'll give you an example. I go to a church that's a fabulous church, love it, in Riverside. I'll give them a plug, by the way, Emmanuel Lutheran here in Riverside. But they have a school that's 0 to 6th grade. And one of the reasons I love that church is their kids are so darn innocent and protected. I love it. It is such a pleasure after I've spent a week looking at exploitation. I love that. But when we decided to train the teachers and the parents and some of the 6th graders, we have to be very careful because their life experience is going to be a lot different than if I'm speaking at some continuation high school where half the people in there are gangbangers, and I'm going to use a completely different approach. So you have to understand how that works. Some of the protocols that we have tried to follow. If it's my opinion, and there are times I say I try to stay non-political, but every now and then, like SB 357, I hardly can keep my opinion to myself. So then I will say, I want to make this clear. This is strictly my opinion. Does not make it a fact, does not make it right. It is my opinion after gathering information. And so it's okay to use opinion, but identify that as it's not a fact. Try not to get political. In my case, when I talk about smuggling and the open borders, I'll tell you that's a bear, because I think what's going on, there I go, giving you my opinion, okay? But, it's scary what's going on at the border because we're seeing it in our community. So I try to be careful on these. Now, if you're talking to a political organization on one side of the aisle or the other, know who you're talking to and be able to give a middle of the road kind of presentation. There are plenty of facts about exploitation without going out there and drawing up a big political hullabaloo. My role in my life may be different in your case. You have to decide what your mission is. And my mission is to keep kids safe from predators by educating everybody I can. And I don't care about their politics. So I don't want that to get in my way. You may have a different goal. And if you do, that's fine. You just need to be able to clarify it. Make it clear that this is not about any particular race or ethnicity. And I didn't put it in there. I should have, or any particular gender. All people are subject to being trafficked. However, I will tell you it's important to understand specifics about individuals when you deal with them, because there are specific cultural issues that are related to various kinds of trafficking. The LGBTQ community historically will often end up with Grindr or something like that. I have the greatest respect for them. I've been training True Evolution for a long, long time, and I have some LGBTQ in my family, QI in my family. I love them dearly, by the way, and some of our good friends. However, when you're training a particular group, you better know about that. If you're talking with Hispanics, a lot of times Hispanics have a certain cultural issues like we have to do this or they're going to hurt our family back home. Same way with the Chinese culture. And you have to understand where they came from, what the culture is in order to be able to assist them. That's not a judgment. That's not a passing judgment on someone. That's trying to meet them where they're at, and it's the right thing to do. So know your audience and deliver that to meet their expectation. If you're talking to code enforcement and fire departments, I customize a training to focus on buildings more than behaviors, because what do? They're the first on the scene. They'll either have a complaint or an emergency, and they're out there. So we need to talk about buildings with them. When I train medical, it's okay to understand the psychological and the business end of this, but they're really looking for signs that someone has been hurt. Damage to the knees, damage to the face, and bite marks, bruise marks, strangulations, and like that. Schools, I'm going to talk about in depth in a minute because I've done a huge amount of school training in my lifetime, but I think that it's very important to understand that. Look at school nurses. They're going to be, again, looking for physical signs. School resource officers are going to be looking for signs of gangs or signs of violation, signs of pornography, signs of somebody being exploited or sextorted. CWAs. I actually went to Fresno and Morro Bay recently to train with CWA. People after my heart. Those are the truant officers in the state of California. They're going to be one of the first that's going to see a child in trouble. If you have an unaccompanied minor coming in, that child may be in danger because they or their family may owe money to a coyote. And that kid may be leaving school early and dressing odd, or maybe short of sleep, or they may be recruiting younger kids. So these are all things you want to learn to tailor to who you're talking to. Especially, I want to point out something about bottom girls. Bottom girls are those gang pimp girls, the pimp's right-hand girl, and they 60% of girls are recruited by another girl. If your school staff doesn't know that, they won't know what to look for. And then the general public, you talk about how it works, how it recruits, signs to watch for, what they can do. You want to be really careful when you start talking to the general public, because they've probably seen the movie Sounds of Freedom, which I highly recommend. It was an excellent movie, but that is not how trafficking takes place in the U.S. And they're going to, especially the elderly, they worry about their grandkids and great grandkids. And, so what you want to do there is, I always say, we don't want the grandma down at the motel taking on the cartel, but they can do neighborhood watch. They can see if there's houses there that suddenly have a lot of people living there, or they're shut off and people come in and go in at night, and they need to know how to report. So keep it a little bit more general with the general public. So know your audience, understand who your audience is and deliver to meet their needs. Excuse me. For instance, excuse me, when I talk to students, high energy, lots of action, a slide every 20 seconds or less, lots of video, fast paced, exciting. That's very important. If you stand up there next to a PowerPoint and go, you've lost them a long time. Focus on the positive. They're looking for leadership. They're looking out for each other. Kids don't want a thou shall not. They want to know that they are the most important generation that's ever lived, and that we're counting on them to be leaders. Keep your eyes out in the audience for gang members. When I talk to an entire group, let's say 500 people, I look around. I take note of who's there. By the way, there's always counselors whenever I go to train young people in a school. I want them standing by. But gang members, I want to be straightforward and honest with them. I'm going to show them a couple of cases where pimps and predators got 35 years in prison, 50 years in prison, more than even murder in some cases. Watch for young people who may be violated or reacting badly to your presentation. One of the things you have to remember, if you're presenting into a group of students that have, let's say, 500 students in the group, probably at least 100 of them have been violated, and some of them yesterday. So watch out. Make sure you have counselors standing by. And be careful how you use the wording so it's not judgmental, so that person can deal with it. By the way, one of the best things you can do in a school is take some of your police dogs, have police officers go with you and bring the dogs, where they can have their picture taken with a dog. It's kind of soothing after a presentation like that. Especially, I like to do classrooms, but that's very hard to do because you might have to do 6 or 8 a day. And I'm getting old. Okay. But even in a large audience of 200, 300, it's a trick. It really is, because maybe you have 500. You have a lot of people that you're talking to about sex, people who are hormonal, and you're trying to keep their attention, and you're trying to get them to be leaders, but let them know they can come forward in case they've been violated. Trying to engage the students as much as possible. One of my favorite things I do is I show this one where this girl has 1 million followers. And I'll ask them, if you have 1 million followers, what percentage of them are a pedophile? First, I ask them, do they know what a pedophile is? And then I'll say, what percentage? And they'll yell out 25%, 30%, 50%. Well, if it's only 1%, that's 10,000 bad guys out there trying to harm you or your little sister. Make sure there's a trained counselor standing by, and always end it on a positive note. I've used something for a long time called, oh, I forgot what it's called. Your Life in Jelly Beans is what it is. And it kind of talks about your life and what you're going to do with it. And I ended it on a motivational note. Even the most hardcore gang member cannot resist that video. They stay glued to it. So here's some training protocols if you're going to train in schools. Train all staff and executive and teachers first in schools every time. And the reason for that is if you start training students before you train them, and one of those students comes to report, that staff won't know how to deal with it. So I train all staff and executives in one session, then I train the teachers in another section. And then once that's done, I don't move directly to the students. I train the parents, okay? The reason for that is if I train Johnny first, that parent is going to come into me saying, you're talking to my child about prostitution, and by the time that the parent has been through an event, then the parent will come to me and say, will you speak to Johnny about prostitution, okay? Or about sex trafficking or about social media exploitation. So it's best to train staff, then train staff, then teachers, then parents, and then students. Try to arrange it so there's not more than 200 to 250 students at a time. That's kind of important because you want to keep control. And every now and then you'll have a special needs person that outreaches questions or is disruptive, or you'll have somebody getting the giggles, or you'll see a gang guy looking across the room at another person like they're intimidating them. You want to keep control, and so it's best to not get the crowd too big. Classrooms are even more effective, but it takes a heck of a toll on the trainer. Separate them out by grades. I'm absolutely adamant about that. The first time I ever didn't do that, I realized right off the bat I would never do it again unless I separated them out. Ninth graders, they're just coming out of puberty. They get the giggles. They're not as mature. 12th graders are more on the adult side, and they take it more seriously. And so you talk to them differently. It is possible to train in middle schools, but make sure your presentation is appropriate. I mean that very, very serious on how they do that. I saw 3 strands, I think it is. They have education that they give to middle schools, and it looks very, very appropriate. And so I recommend that. They don't know I'm recommending them. Decide what is appropriate and urgent for the group you're training. For instance, foster agencies. The vulnerability of foster youth. At least 60% of kids in sex trafficking came from the foster system. So agencies need to know how they recruit, how bottom girls operate, which social media sites they're using, how to protect the other kids from another girl or guy coming in, how gangs use kids for exploitation, the vulnerability of the LGBTQ group with Grindr because it has geolocation software. If you're talking to the kids themselves that are foster youth and at-risk kids, that's a challenge because some of them are gang wannabes, okay? And others are feeling very vulnerable and scared, and they don't want to be caught up in it, but they don't know how to protect themselves. So keep it upbeat and positive and encourage them to be leaders. Encourage them to talk to their counselors and share ideas. Ease up on the trauma. Make it clear they have options. Talk about strength of character. This is where the whole idea, not the total way it came, but the idea that Million Kids has these I believe in you challenge coins and those rubber bracelets. I want them to know that the way that you stand against a pedophile or a predator or a gang recruiter is you know who you are and what you stand for. And you decide you're too good and you're not going to take chances. And every time you do what's right instead of what's easy, you get character. And you decide, hey, I'm going to go somewhere and be something in my life. And I'm not going to allow some idiot I have never met online mess up my life with sextortion. So that's how you talk with especially those at-risk kids. Know your material so well that you can give a 30-minute presentation without using any of your slides. Okay. And that comes from practice, 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 practice. You're writing it. That's why I'm saying you can use our slides as a model, but make your own material, because for you to learn my material isn't going to work as well as if you figure out what we're saying and make it your material. So never just stand there and read your slides. Okay, nobody really wants to live through that. They're only there to reinforce, like what you're seeing right here. What I'm saying is up there to reinforce. Make those slides factual, interesting, and well presented. Now, what you're seeing today is not that. I just want it to be straightforward and factual. But if you know me, every 20 seconds you get some audio, video kind of input, photos that you can use that tell your story, pictures from the case, video from the case. Now, be careful on those videos, okay? Keep them short, to the point. Keep them where they tell your story, but you don't go on and on and on, okay? It's your presentation. You're just using that video to keep them engaged. Build a master database of all your slides and update and create a special presentation every time you present. I do that. I know it's a lot of work, but if I'm going to come out to see you, I want to deliver the message that you're expecting from me. And you and I have already talked about it. So we're looking at the timing that they've allotted, the expectation of their organization, and who that audience is. So use your master database of slides and tailor it to that. Set goals for your presentation and practice and time your presentation. The hardest thing I have is number 2, what not to say. Because I will go into an hour presentation and I'll have easily 100 slides. Now, I show a different slide every 20 seconds with the exception of a few videos, but I will time that out. So decide what your objectives are. And in fact, when I submit a lot of my trainings, I have to identify the top 5 objectives or the top 3 objectives. Then decide what not to say. Eliminate that duplication and go in and say, okay, I already said this, don't need to say that. This audience not as important here. So eliminate duplication and irrelevant material. Keep your presentation high energy and vary the tone. Now I want to share this with you. You can use YouTube's, that kind of keeps them up and down. You can use lots of images, but if you're sharing about your personal experience, surround it with other experiences to the audience to get a broad perspective. I've seen survivors stand up and go on for 45 minutes about all the things they did wrong. That is saved for true confession. I value survivors. I've known many, 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 and we often include them. And I want to read every survivor story I can. But what we need to do is share that personal experience, but surround it with other information. And this, I want you to take this in the right train here. Intersperse it with some appropriate humor. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. I never, ever, ever laugh at the subject of exploitation. It is dead serious. That's why I get up every morning. This is why I've done this for 15 years, is that we want to stop that. However, this gets heavy, especially if you're sharing something personal. But it gets heavy on the subject, especially you're talking about child pornography and the dark web and social media exploitation where they're committing suicide. So vary your tone and give the people a chance to exhale. Some of you may have seen one of my presentations where I'm going through showing and talking about gang trafficking. That is as brutal as it gets on a human being. And so I'm showing all these tattoos, and every now and then I'll show one with a crown. And then I'll go, wait a minute, just because a guy has a crown doesn't mean he's a pimp. He might be a Christian. And so it's a way of letting them exhale. So you vary the tone, you vary the impact of it, and find appropriate ways to use a little humor to let that audience exhale. This is a lot of information for them, and it is very demanding. So know your audience. Show up early, at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Test your presentation at home before you go there, and then after you get there, and especially the videos. Make sure that audio works. Make sure the video works. Always thank your audience for coming. They are giving up an important piece of their life to come and hear what they believe is very valuable information that you're going to give them. So thank them for that. Always dress appropriately. You do not always have to show up in a suit and a tie if you're a guy, or spike heels if you're a girl. I can't wear spike heels anymore because standing my feet so long, but dress appropriately. If you're with law enforcement, they're probably going to be in some sort of a nice jacket, meaning a casual jacket, and a t-shirt, or sports people are in sports clothes. So look at who they are. And if you're with a bunch of little old ladies for an afternoon seminar, they're probably going to be dressed to the nines. So you'll dress up a little bit more. Know the time allotted for your presentation and don't go over it. That's my sin every time. I have so much I want to share after 15 years of research, but get that timing and go through and get out what you don't need to say. That's important, especially if you're not the only speaker, because it is very rude to go over and take another speaker's time. Know how to contact your local agencies so that when you talk about how to report, they can know how to contact their local human trafficking task force, or their sheriff, or their police department. If people come to you and share their life experience, which happens to me every day, listen to them, don't judge them, and always keep it confidential. Now, ask their permission if they want you to intervene and help them get help. But don't just do it and thrust it on them. That will never work. They are trusting you with the most sacred part of their psyche and their self-image, their dignity. So let's respect that. Important elements of any presentation. Give the audience action items. Watch for homes and businesses in your neighborhood and how to report them. They have closed windows, people moving in and out. A truck shows up and 3 girls get out and a whole bunch of guys come in. A massage parlor that's all closed off and late night and looking a little tacky. Give them specifics on how to report that. Watch for signs of gang activity, recruiter, or someone in danger, but never, ever encourage them to get personally involved. These are very dangerous people. Show them how to report. Show them how to talk to their kids about social media and exploitation, and how to have an informed relationship with teens and devices. And then I'm going to encourage all of you, of course, I would never not do this, okay, to see the movie Sextortion, The Hidden Pandemic. In fact, if you go to sextortionfilm.com, it'll show you everywhere that it is. And I need to get that on that slide. So general courtesies for success: confirm everything in writing when you're starting to arrange this. Who's the audience? How long do I have? Where do I go? What's the address? What's the time frame that's in there? Anything else I need to know about this? Are there other speakers that I need to accommodate and fit into? Get the address. Okay. I've had that a couple of times. I'm like, where am I going? Demographics of the audience, the date, the time, the length. These sound basic. You get busy and it doesn't happen. Understand the environment, the large room, small, intimate setting, and auditorium. Bring extra equipment. If it's a large speech, always go early. Test it out. I always bring in my PC, my thing on a thumb drive, clicker, HDMI cables. I usually have an adapter in case they don't have HDMI. You never know what you're getting into. And I didn't put it down, but I always bring flyers and handouts. Get there early so you have time to set up and practice. Now, in closing, I want to share this with you. You have to decide if this is really for you, okay? Not everybody is cut out to do this. Many people care about this and they want to make a contribution, but most people, 98% of the people I meet, don't have time, don't have energy, have other commitments. They're concerned because it's a whole lot of heavy information every day. So you decide if this is really for you. I'm not encouraging you to do it. You're the one that will know whether you're the person for this or not. But you have to decide how much time you want to commit. You cannot just read this, 2 hours a week and go out and be an expert. It isn't going to happen. This is all consuming work. It's very demanding to be able to keep current on this information and have the time to prepare the presentations and physically make this presentation. And you are reading a whole lot of crap. Okay. You go, well, it's all I can do to read about the porn cases. I look at this and it's just heartbreaking. And I go, oh my God, there's 18 today. Can I look at them? Well, maybe that isn't the right subject for you if it gets to you. I didn't put it on there, but it might be good that you have a counselor that you talk to, but always have something good for yourself. If making presentations is not for you, that's okay. That's fine. That's the purpose of me making this presentation to you today, for you to understand the depth of what it takes to make this happen. There are many other ways to help. We ran a foster kids bedding program this spring that was just a riot. I loved it. So many people loved it. We got a cute little comforter and some sheets to match and a decorator pillow of dinosaurs and, all kinds of angels and all kinds of rabbits and stuff. And we donated some incredible amount of foster bedding bedding for foster kids. And now it's a certain kind of thing. Don't just go out there and start buying bedding. Anyway, but you could do that. Or you can support your local group home, whatever they're calling them these days, where a whole lot of kids are together and they need entertainment. They need, maybe you can have pizza delivered to them one night or something like that. Or maybe do a transitional youth decorator an apartment event. Kids, when they come out of the foster care system, they get their own apartment. Well, get your youth group together, adopt this kid, and go in and help them decorate that apartment. Support a local safe house or other agencies such as Million Kids. We always need financial support. We're a small agency. The most important thing, if you're going to do this, is take care of yourself, okay? There are times I have to just walk away. When they passed SB 357, I went to Montana. It was so PO'd. Anyway, I'm not allowed to say that. I was ticked off. Okay. But other times I give myself other things, and I have a great relationship with my husband, and he understands when I need extra time or I need to get away from this computer. So set commitment limits for research and presentation for giving and development, presentation, giving and development. So you want to leave enough time that you can do it, but don't let it eat up your whole life. About 6 years ago, I lost my past husband, and for 2 years, I was a widow, and I had no constraints. I had 8 jobs when I met my new husband. And he's like, well, if this is going to work, we got to talk about it. Okay. You need to do something. Well, you do too. Okay. So have other interests. In my case, I live on 4 acres, so I'm a gardener. I don't have a choice. And it's, but I love the birds and the singing and the flowers. My husband has drugged me into bridge. I can't tell you that's relieving for me, but I'm a glass artist. Those of you that know me, I have, and we're trying to set up Artists Against Trafficking online. I love doing glass art. My husband now has learned to do it with me. We like to travel, so I take 10 days out of every 3 months, and he and I go somewhere because we're retired, except I'm not really retired. I love to cook, especially for big events. I love to go out with friends. I love to go to the beach, so do inspirational things. I have a series. My favorite song is When You Walk Through the Storm, Hold Your Head Up High. And then I love, what's the other one? Susan Boyle with I Dreamed a Dream. Read inspirational. I read Jesus Calling every morning. I start out my morning every morning. And if none of that works, play Freestyle. Don't do it. You'll get addicted. So remember, you are doing this so that you are the solution. So don't be part of the problem. If you can't come out with solutions and in a positive manner and be able to deliver this, then this isn't the right space for you. That doesn't mean you can't contribute. But these people are looking for solutions, so let's be the solution. Well, my name is Opal Singleton. This has been about the longest darn thing I ever made in my life. I've probably run out of recording. I thank you. You can write to me at Opal, O-P-A-L. No, that isn't right. You can write to me at osingle405@aol.com if you want to make comments. I would be happy to send you more information on a regular basis. I do a lot of that online because I have about 100 people that I'm training at any given time. But I wish you well. You do not have to do what I do, okay? God put me here for whatever reason, and that works for me. That may not work for you. That's okay. I'm not looking to create a bunch of little opals, God forbid, or couldn't handle that. You be you, okay? You do you. And I will give you as much research as I can possibly give you to support you, but you decide. Thank you for sitting through this very long video, and I hope I see you in the near future. Take care.